Hello there, my crafty friends. It's Ashley Pfeiffer, the maker behind Stamped AF. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Canada, and I wanted to share a fun little fall treat package. So please, no judgment. These Little Debbie Pumpkin Delights are available at Dollarama in Canada, and OMG, they are delicious. They are not something that I should be eating, but so the funny thing is they call them cakes. But come on, this is a cookie. So I thought these things are so stinking cute and they are so delicious and they are just made for sharing. They're individually wrapped, so they're perfect for this time. They're COVID appropriate. So I thought, let's make a little cute packaging. And I have gone ahead and done a couple of steps. I should mention you need the Harvest Hellos bundle to make this. And I have also brought in one of my favorite dies from this bundle, Autumn Greetings. Admittedly, it is not a bundle that I thought that I would be using much. I bought it specifically for this, but I mean, these pumpkins are adorable. But I thought this little die kind of replicates the look of the jack-o'-lantern on there, albeit a creepy looking, angry, grumpy jack-o'-lantern. But I love the triangles and the holes, and I thought it would be such a great little way to finish that tab. Now, if you don't have this bundle, you can just leave it straight. I would suggest rounding those corners, but there are other border dies you could use. A couple that came to mind when I started doing this was these two from the Ornate suite of products. I can never remember the name of these dies, but there's this cute little dotted one and this fun little one. Lots of different options, but I went ahead and I have already cut and scored this because I was having some measurement issues. So what you're going to need to recreate this is a piece of pumpkin pie cardstock, or whatever color you choose to do this in. It measures 4.5 by 8.5 inches. On the 8.5 inch side, you're going to score it at 1 1/4, 1 3/4, 4 7/8. I've got kind of a little mini extra score in there. Please disregard. So that's 4 7/8, and then 5 3/8. I'm sorry to get 1/8 of an inch involved, but it is what it is. And then on the sides, you're going to score at 1/2 inch and 4 inches. Although you can score at 1/2 inch, turn it around and score again at 1/2 inch. But what we are going to do is just notch out these little pieces. Give ourselves some slivers of pumpkin pie. So the reason that this little partial score is there is that it was looking like it was going to be 1/16 of an inch, and I thought, no, I'm not going to do that to you. It's bad enough that they're actually, I'm going to take this part right off. It's bad enough that I'm using 1/8 of an inch. I don't want to bring in 1/16 of an inch. So this is that fold over lid. And if you want your lid to close differently, you could probably tuck it in. You could use a Velcro dot, you could use a little magnet, but I chose to just keep mine closed with the gorgeous Early Espresso faux suede trim. I have not used enough of this and it's just dreamy. I'm not going to undo it on here because it's so hard to get a decent bow. My first bow was so much better than this. I wish I had just left it, but in a previous take of this video, I tried showing it off. So I am going to adhere my little jack-o'-lantern smile on here. I'm going to go fairly close to the edge. I'm really only taking off the triangle pieces. If you had pinking shears, you could achieve this same kind of look. You just wouldn't get all those little dots. But I mean, if you have a small hole punch, you could do that as well. This time around, we are going to stamp on that jack-o'-lantern face, which just brings this more, it just integrates it better. Because on this one, I didn't put the jack-o'-lantern face. I just have Hey There Pumpkin. But I thought on this one, we'll do the jack-o'-lantern face. And that is partially because the DSP has a lot more black this time around. So for these pieces, you're going to cut one piece of your Plaid Trimmings DSP to 3 1/4 inches. And then you want one that's 2 3/4 and one that's 5/8 of an inch. So we are pretty much ready to assemble this. Now, I would recommend before you assemble this, if you're going to put in a thumb notch, we'll do it now. Actually, let's adhere this piece of DSP and then we'll do our thumb notch. You're not going to see that thumb notch when this is closed, which is kind of the point, but it will help the recipient to get that cookie out of there. So let's adhere that one and this one. And I did think about stamping the pumpkin kind of all over wherever there wasn't DSP, but I think the DSP speaks for itself. So I'm going to start by putting some glue. You can use tear and tape or Stampin' Seal Plus. Put a little dot of glue on there and we'll bring those back flaps forward. A key to a finished looking box is starting with the back flaps first, and then you bring the front flaps back. That is hard to say. Okay, so it kind of looks like a little fancy pizza box right now. So now I will add some glue on these tabs. Oh, I did it backwards. I'm doing exactly the opposite of what I told you to do. I always like my flaps going to the back, my front flaps, because then it looks finished. Now I've got my front flaps facing in. This is exactly the opposite of what I was trying to accomplish, but we're going to leave it. I just like when you've got that nice flat look, but say what I do what I say, not what I do. Okay, so that is the basis of our box. We can tuck that cookie in there. There's a little bit of air in here, which can make it tricky to fit in there. Might pop just a little bit. Now, if the recipient's going to be eating it soon, just pop a tiny little hole and let some of that air out. But I plan on giving this one away, so I'm not going to do that because I don't want the cookie to get all stale, but I did do it on this one. Okay, so I've got my pumpkin pie ink. Actually, before we start stamping, let's just close this up because we don't need to get back in there. So cut yourself a length that you're comfortable with tying a bow. I don't know that it needs to be that long. And I find I get the best bows when I turn my project upside down. I'm not sure what it is. If anyone has a better tip for getting a nice bow, please let me know, because it is a little bit awkward. And it's always a good idea to work with more ribbon than you need. You can always trim it down, but just remember that the recipient is going to have to open this and then will likely close it after the fact, after they've devoured this delicious cookie. So leave them enough room to tie it up again. So not too bad for the first try. So now let's do a little bit of stamping. I've already gone ahead and I punched the leaf and the stem with garden green and soft suede. I've got a little scrap of whisper white for the sentiment, but I definitely want to stamp it first and then die cut. And then I've got just a little scrap from one of my failed attempts at measuring. And we will ink that up. Do it fairly close to the bottom so that your punch can get in there. And I have the weirdest pumpkin pie ink pad. It doesn't ink up very well. So 9 times out of 10, I end up with this cool ombre effect. And I've just grown to love it. But if you can see here, it's darker up here and then it gets lighter. It's just the way it is. I have previously replaced it and it was the same this time. So I just go with it. It's kind of fun to get an ombre effect when you're not even trying. So before I forget, I will take out that jack-o'-lantern face because I don't want to forget. And and I will use Memento for that. You could also use Stays On. Now this does have a fun effect in that it's not meant to stamp completely solid. It is meant to have those little bits and pieces, but if you do want it darker, you can go over that with your Stampin' Right marker. I think I'm going to leave mine as is. I'm going to stamp my Hey Pumpkin on here. And I like to stamp it twice because I get this cool ombre effect and see which one I like better. Both about the same. But I like to stamp two of a sentiment because I'm going to be die cutting this, and if it slips, then I don't have to go through the trouble of getting everything out, stamping it, and going through this process again. I've got one more that is good to go. And this is great when it's a small sentiment. I don't always do this, but when it's something like this where I'm going through the trouble of doing all this, then I'm going to stamp it twice. There we go. So we'll pop a few dimensionals on the back of this guy, but I do want him to be, him, her, it. I want it to be at kind of an angle. So I need to put maybe one full size here and two there. And I can't just eyeball that. I'm working in mirror image, so there we go. This DSP is quite a bit darker than the first one, so this pumpkin isn't going to stand out quite as much as it did on the first, which is another great reason to have that little jack-o'-lantern face on there. And then we'll just add a little bit of glue to the stem. Now, I found last year when this came out that if you want it to be an apple, it goes this way, and if you want it to be a pumpkin, it goes that way. Okay, so I just put the glue on there. You could ink up your leaf just a little bit to add some distressing. It's kind of got a short little stem there. And then we're just going to pop one mini on the right hand side of this, and we'll put some glue on the other because the pumpkin's already popped up. Now, the thing I didn't think about was I've got a face on it this time, so probably should have gone the other way around. So we'll take that off. I didn't have a face to maneuver around last time. So I'm just going to take a little scrap and wipe that off. So perhaps dry fitting would be a good idea before you go any further. And with this guy having a face, I maybe should have put him further over. So I think I'm going to put it right at the bottom here where it's not covering too much of the pumpkin. I could also put it up here, and that would help to keep the ribbon where it is. Put a little bit of glue there. There we go. Nice save, right? So that is all. There are fun little cookie treats. I would love to know in the comments below which one is your favorite. I really prefer my first sample, but I think it's because there's so much yellow on that one. There's a lot of orange going on. But let me know in the comments below which one is your favorite. And if you create this, I would love to see it. You can share it on Instagram and tag me at StampedAF, or you can email it to me. You can share it on my Facebook page, my Facebook group. And I thank you so much for watching. Please consider hitting that subscribe button below to catch a new video each and every week. We'll see you soon, my crafty friends. Oh, let me show you just quickly. So this week's manicure, I will post the link below. I mattified it with a quick little hack All you have to do is take the buffing side of the GelMoment nail file and buff off the shine. So it's still a little bit shiny, but that chrome was like electric before. So go check out that video to see the colors I used and my process. And we'll see you again next week, my crafty friends. Bye.